Have you ever been in love with someone so deep at one point, but at some other point in life, you could not even stand that person? Have you ever wondered if your current partner loves you enough? Have you ever meditated on understanding your energy of love? What are the barriers that you have set up against the love? What converts love into pain? Why do we look for love in the wrong places? Is there a way to keep the energy of love alive? In this episode, I'm going to be discussing the freedom and love and how can we evolve with it. I am Chandresh Bhardwaj and this is Break the Norms. Namaste everyone. So before I start talking about the freedom and love in this episode, I want to remind you that I'm teaching a quick 2-day retreat at 1440 Multiversity in California from February 14th to 16th. It's a quick workshop focusing on meditation, mantras, relationships, tantra, and all the stuff that you see me posting on Instagram and on podcast. So if it's something you feel connected to, or if it's something that you feel you can benefit from, definitely sign up now because I'm not teaching any other retreat this year, or at least have not signed up for any other retreat. The link to sign up is on my show notes and also on my website cbmeditates.com. Definitely take a moment to read the details and send me any questions that you may have. All right, so getting into the topic of this day, freedom and love. I felt the need to talk about this because, whenever I mention freedom and love on my Instagram, I usually get a lot of questions where people get confused that why freedom and love are, treated as same. I've had people telling me, do not talk about freedom and love because they cannot be together. And if you bring in freedom with love, it's going to be damaging. And I've also had people telling me, oh, you are a Leo. Leo people don't like to be tamed. They don't like possessiveness. So it's the Leo in you talking. So don't make it a spiritual teaching because, freedom and love cannot be together. You need to have a certain possessiveness in love. I've had people who tell me they love the possessiveness in a relationship. And if their partner is not possessive enough, they don't think it's love because that's just how they understand the love. And needless to say, the people who think possessiveness is part of love, their love story never tends to bloom or evolve with time. It tends to get darker and painful because the truth is, if there's no freedom and love, it will be dead at one point, or it will simply become a performance. It will simply become something that you're doing for the sake of respect, society, norms, and all that stuff. I have seen a lot of people who project a certain love story on their Instagram, but behind the scenes, it's a very different story. And I'm in a job where I get to see a lot of these behind the scenes stories. And I've been observing this for more than a decade now, and the truth is very simple, that if there's anything that's alive, it will go through change. Anything that's alive is bound to evolve and change, because if it's not evolving or changing, it's not alive. And you can see that with anyone around you. It could be humans, could be flowers, could be a mountain and part of nature, could be anything that's alive. It will go through a change. It could be the change in energy, change in how they are, they decay, they bloom, and eventually they die. If you want to cultivate a love that will never die, it's not going to be real love. It's going to be illusion of love. And illusions can be very seductive. Illusions can be gratifying, and that's why we love illusions. And one of the illusions that we give to ourselves is that possessiveness is an important part of love, or jealousy is an important part of love. And somewhere our mind enjoys this entire circus, right? We are trained to love in an aggressive way. And we are trained to understand that freedom in love is irresponsible and almost animalistic. And whenever, we come across a partner who's encouraging freedom in love, we start to see that as something wrong. And I know there are people who misuse and abuse the freedom in love. And that's why I think it's just so important to understand, what does freedom in love really mean and how can we evolve with it? One thing that needs to be fully embraced and understood is that freedom and love go hand in hand. If there's no freedom in love, then it's not going to go a long way. It will die a very quick and silent death, all right? Freedom in love simply means allowing the partner to bloom, to evolve in their own way. And there could be moments in that love where you feel your partner has started to love someone else, or your partner is not connecting with you on that same level. As harsh or painful as it sounds, the truth is, it's time to evolve with that story, right? It's time to say goodbye or evolve into the next, realm in your relationship with your partner. Because if you constantly go back to the past, if you constantly struggle to recreate the same love, the same passion which existed at some point, it's not going to happen. And if you start to, love and live through the mind, then you may start to control. And that could make the entire chemistry very toxic. There's always a way to evolve in the love. There's always a way to transcend beyond the possessiveness, beyond the desires, beyond everything that once existed in a natural or unnatural way. But for that to happen, you need to be absolutely grateful. I tell my clients to be grateful for every amount of love that you receive from the other. It could be from your family, your partner, your friends. You got to be very grateful, because no one is obligated to give us love. As a human being, your responsibility is to share the love. And that's why I feel it's so important to, cultivate that energy of love within yourself, because once the energy of love is just blooming and evolving on a very peak level of awareness, then you have no option but to simply give that love. That's the tantra way of loving, where you simply give and share the love that's already within you. And this starts to create a very powerful self-worthiness as well. If I already have so much love and respect for my own existence, and I'm simply giving it to you, I'm not expecting you to give me the same amount of love. And my validation of who I am is not dependent on anyone. And if I receive love and compassion and affection from anyone, I'm simply grateful. And that's what Tantra teaches. It's difficult only because the mind, has learned and been conditioned to understand love in a very different way. The kind of love where there is no demand, where there is no possession, there's no aggression. It's a different, kind of love for the mind, because mind understands love to be possessive. Mind understands love to be a certain transaction between two people. But the true essence of love cultivates in that one person, in that one soul. And from that one soul, it starts to spread like a fragrance. I hope that makes sense. So the lessons are very simple. You have to understand the way of loving. How are you loving and evolving? Okay. And you're not, defining and structuring the love in a dead way. You're not defining the laws for each other because you really want it to evolve. Number two, if you feel it's time for the partner to move on, you make it happen for them. You almost celebrate that goodbye. You make it a very pleasant farewell for each other. There, it can all be done without hate, without anger, without suffering. And that's where your awareness, has to really guide you. Because anything that's alive will change. Anything that has a life in it will go through a certain layers of evolution. And you have to simply understand what barriers I'm cultivating in my relationship, what barriers I'm cultivating in my love. And this all can happen effortlessly if you meditate, not just by yourself, but you also encourage your friends, your partners, your family to meditate with you. Because unless meditation doesn't become a part of your daily lifestyle, these kind of teachings are simply going to sound either irrational or simply very philosophical or very spiritual. But they are not really spiritual teachings. They are very simple, fundamental things that should be part of my life and your life and everyone's life. They sound spiritual only because we have learned or been wired or trained to think about love in a very different way. And if you simply cultivate freedom in love, encouraging your partner to simply be who they want to be, encouraging yourself to express and be whom you want to be, it's going to shift a lot of energy in how you express and experience the love. You will stop looking for love in the wrong places, and you will automatically find new and creative ways to keep the love, alive and joyful. And you also know, that, okay, this is it. It was alive and joyful and celebrative for the last, few years or few months or even few days. But now it's not. And that's beautiful. It's going to be a little, painful and a little disappointing because, my mind was expecting it to last forever. But I have to gracefully accept its conclusion and, really express that affection and that joy that it stayed with you for so long. And when that starts to happen, I guarantee you start to change your aura, your energy changes, your attraction power changes, the way you manifest things in life starts to change. Because suddenly there's awareness, there's gratitude, there's acceptance, there's so much happening within you. And I'm very curious with this episode. I really want you to practice this even for a few days or few weeks and really share with me if it's bringing any change in your life. It has certainly changed how I experience love, because there was a point when I thought and I took pride in practicing possessiveness and anger and control in my relationship. And very soon, or I don't know if it's soon, but yeah, whenever I would go through that episode of anger and possessiveness, I would feel terrible, but it would repeat unconsciously. And that's when I knew that this is all wrong. Although the people around me were validating it, they were like, yeah, this is exactly what happens in love. You want to control and you want your partner to be only yours, but it doesn't happen often. And this anger is natural and you deserve to own her and possess her. And when I would meditate, it all starts to feel just wrong, just plain wrong. And I knew I had to change something. And it usually takes a deep, heartbreak or a deep, experience of someone you love, moving away, or your life going through a very major disaster experience that you realize, okay, this all needs to change. Life is short. Life is unpredictable. And I need to revisit how I was trained to love. I need to revisit how I'm conditioned to experience love. I need to completely redefine how I give love and I receive love, because they both are very closely connected. You have to understand how you are giving, because that's going to affect how you are receiving. But first thing is how you are giving, all right? You got to focus on yourself. You cannot change the other, but you can definitely work on yourself. The bottom line is, in awareness, love will always bloom. And when you shift your energy into the mind, the love will die a silent death. You have to make a conscious choice. Am I going to love from awareness, or am I going to love from the mind? When you love from the mind, you'll be loving through the past or the future projections, or through all the ideas that are thrown at you. And when you love from awareness, it may not have any reference point, but then you love beyond the physical, then you love beyond all that you have learned, okay? So you got to unlearn, undo what's been done to you, and then it can really find its own way. On that note, I'm going to sign off for this episode. Thank you for listening, and do let me know how this teaching, this sharing turned out for you. Thank you, guys. I hope this podcast may travel through the untapped universe of your darkness, light, courage, passion, and so much more. Please do subscribe and be ready to break your norms. I am so excited and very honored to be part of your sacred journey through this podcast.